Sheryl asks, where do the McNaughtons stand with regards to continuing? So has it helped them so far?
I believe it's been helpful, the process. I mean, it's obviously it's a huge amount of attention on a family that's a very secretive or private family. But I think in the end they've decided as a whole that it was a positive experience. I can't really speak for them. I asked one of the family members to be here that lives in Toronto. He couldn't be here. But they're interested in going forward on this next dive if it happens, and we're confident that we can make something happen there. We're not going to give up on it.
Okay. So let's move on to season 2 unless there's any further updates you want to give.
No, I had the email from the police here,
Oh.
and someone had asked about the rubber from the shoe that we found in the second dive. And this is from Rob Hagerman, the OPP officer who is working on the McNaughton case right now. And he says, we spoke to CFS, the Center for Forensic Studies, about the rubber, and there were no tests or examinations they could do that would provide any useful information. Thanks, says Rob. So that was interesting about the rubber. It's, I guess, impossible to tell. The CFS is probably one of the preeminent labs in the country, if not North America. So if they can't figure out a way,
then no one can.
Then it's probably pretty difficult, short of finding shoes from that era and trying to figure out what size it would have been and things like
matching,
that.
Yeah.
And matching, and I think unless you go to somewhere like the basement of Honest Ed's or something, you're not going to be able
Right.
to find those. So that's the answer about the rubber.
Okay. So we have some questions from season 2. Jamie emailed to ask, I keep coming back to the recording she gave a friend in case she, Sheryl, disappeared or something happened to her. Where is it, and have you heard it?
I have not heard the recording, despite repeat requests to the Hamilton OPP. They say that they have it in the evidence boxes that they have. They have several evidence boxes. And it's on a micro recording tape. That's what I was told. And it's a conversation allegedly between Sheryl and Michael Lavoie about a court case that involves them.
Okay.
And it's a taped conversation in a way that is obvious that Michael does not know it's being taped. The person who's been identified as Michael. So that's all I know. I haven't heard it. We've tried. We wanted to hear Cheryl's voice, just to hear what she sounded like, without having to hear any other stuff. And they still won't release it because it could be evidence. It could be something that they would use. So we don't want to push too hard on that front, and ruin anything, ruin any chances that could come from whatever this means. This tape. Who knows why she would have said those things and why she would have made that tape.
Right. This is a question from an anonymous asker.
Ooh.
So, yeah, storage lockers have come up a few times in the show. Have police looked into storage lockers and the names of family members or people connected to the case?
Storage lockers were looked into, according to the police information that I have, with relation to Michael Lavoie alone.
Okay.
So they were not looked into with regards to Sheryl or other family members.
Okay.
Although it has been alleged by some who I've spoken to that Sheryl had a locker in her name and they stored materials in there that might have been from thefts or things like that. That has been heard, but I've heard that from at least 2 individuals.
Okay.
So of course we haven't.
And do we know what happened to that? No idea.
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, we're sort of still on that.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I can't really say what we're doing or why, but just operationally, I sort of feel like a police officer now saying that. It's like, operationally, we cannot. But it really does mean sort of exposing what's going on behind the scenes in a way that I feel uncomfortable with.
Yep.
So there's some things I won't be able to answer. I'm really sorry about that because I know how frustrating I'm on the other end of that all the time.
Right.
But I think everybody understands that either way, we don't want to screw the case up.
Absolutely. Right. Okay, so Katie emailed us from Seattle and wanted to know, has it ever been thought that Sheryl could be in a witness protection program?
Sheryl is not in a witness protection program.
Okay. You can say that with certainty. Yeah, okay. So M has the following question. Were there ever links, were the links between Sheryl and Michael to any known gangs?
Gangs, organized crime
Yeah.
In that manner, not that I know of, not that I've come across. I mean, groups, that they ran with, people that they ran with and undertook certain kinds of theft or whatever with, but not gang type. There have been some suggestions in 1 or 2 of the interviews I've done that there were some connections to the triads, but but that's not been that's not been looked into to the extent that I feel satisfied saying that as even close to a rumor.
Okay.
So in fact, I am trying to talk to the triads in Toronto right now.
To find out.
Yeah, to find out.
Okay.
I swim every morning with a prosecutor who's put me in touch with the main handler of the triads informant.
All right.
So I've just blown it if you're watching. Hi, thanks.
Okay, so just another quick question. We have a question from the audience with us here in Hamilton.
Nice.
Have the police done anything since the podcast?
Yes, I can say that they've done at least 2 or 3 things since they've heard information coming out of the podcast. I can't tell you what those things are, and I know that there's likely other things that are happening, and they will not tell me. They've started to withdraw, or not withdraw, but sort of close in a little bit and
Okay.
be less informative, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. So Janelle from Facebook has a question. Have you heard from Michael's mother since the season came out?
As in, Michael's mother calls me and says, "Hi, Dave." No,
Yeah, I don't know.
no,
Yeah,
I haven't
not
heard.
yet.
I haven't heard from Pat Lavoie since the season, since I interviewed her.
Okay. All right, so the next question is from Katie. From Catherine has the following question. This is just for you directly. You always describe the pets of everyone you interview. I've noticed too. Lots of dogs mentioned in the podcast.
Everybody has a dog.
Perhaps, what is it about them that you find so interesting, and do you have any pets?
I do have pets. In fact, I have pictures of my pets here. In fact, I don't really call them pets. I call them friends. So
Okay.
I have 2 friends that live at home with me.
Yeah?
I'm their pet. One of them threw up this morning. He was anxious for me.
Right.
So he
It's
knew I was going
thoughtful,
to be on
yes.
this thing. He unfortunately had an accident. 2 Siamese brothers, and Twig and Spock. Spock threw up. So I had to clean up just before I came. Here's, oh my God, I actually do have pictures right here. Yeah, no, I have these guys hanging out with me. I don't know, can we do this? Is this like a thing? Can we?
I don't know. I'm not
There's
sure.
my cats.
Oh, they're really cute. If you can't see them, they're really
Is that
adorable.
actually happening? Can Facebook understand the
Siamese
delight in these
cats.
cats? Awesome. One is cross-eyed and the other isn't, so it's awesome. I like the imperfection of it all, and they're just great guys. So yeah, why do I describe the
Yeah.
pets? It's part of the scene, part of the atmosphere. Pets are very close to the people who have them.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get to know people through their pets.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are, if I like a pet, their pet, then they might see me as less a threatening person too. I don't think that consciously. I just gravitate towards the pet. But I'm just thinking it might soften the blow of some weirdo at the door asking
Right.
hard questions or painful questions, right?
Yeah.
So, and I love the fact that they're there because they calm me down. So.
Cool. Okay, so this is another question. Jennifer asks, David, could you comment on what you think is the best way to solve this case? This is season 2. If it is by increasing the reward, do you think it could be seen as a possible mechanism for raising the value of the reward? Do you think that would help with the case? Jennifer's
I think
asking.
raising the reward is a positive step in the right direction. It's currently at $50,000. There's a petition that's out now that we're going to talk about. We talk about it right now, actually. Noah Kersner and Sarah Farah in the audience, and they both worked on the petition to seek out a higher reward fund, and I can get Noah to come and talk to us about that. And Sarah, come up and tell us about that. But there's a couple of ways to do it. There's also been on Facebook, this is all audience participation from SKS outside of CBC or anything. So someone else on Facebook asked police, could audience put money into a new reward fund? And the answer was, for now, no, which I don't think is a hard no.
Right.
But it's no for now. And then the question becomes, how do you raise money and everybody sort of be trusting that the person raising the money is not taking the money? Or like, how do you be transparent about an external money raising? Because there's always going to be some allegation that someone's trying to profit off something.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful about that. The petition is different in that it rallies the sort of support around police trying to get them to actually raise their own reward fund, which is how it happens. Right? The Police Service Board approves a reward fund, and if the city or the people of Hamilton sign this petition, the hope is that they'll raise.
And then that's an official. That
would be an
donation,
official
yeah.
internal kind of operation, bonded, so no one's stealing the money. Kind
Right.
Of thing, right.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. So I wouldn't take your thunder there, Noah, but Noah's been great. He contacted me and said, "What can I do to help in the Sheryl Sheppard case?" Sarah's been diligently following along. They're both very active on the case and on trying to find solutions. So I'll just take it away.
So basically, we have this petition, and we're basically talking to two Hamilton councillors. That's Terry Whitehead and Lloyd Ferguson, and also Fred Eisenberger of the Mayor of Hamilton. And we're basically just trying to collect as many signatures as possible to bring to them. And we're trying to get the reward fund raised, obviously. And we're also trying to get police investigators back involved. As you said, they already are, which is great. So we want them to do some more work, and we also want
Lots of signatures.
lots of signatures, obviously.
Yeah.
Where can we find it online?
So if you just go on Google and search "help find Sheryl Sheppard," it'll be the first thing that pops up. And we have about 800 signatures online, and then I think we have at least 1,000 manually by now, so things are looking pretty good.
So almost 2,000 signatures. That's good. And you've just started. I went out with these guys, with Odette, in presence with Odette, a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or more. And everybody was signing. And I think what they're doing is starting to leave them in stores, and people in Hamilton are signing, which is great. And the petition, I think it's change.org. Is that the
It's
the site?
change.org. That's,
Where the
yeah,
actual
that's what
digital
we
one
use,
is. So people basically just have to go, I think they put their email address in, and then they say, yes, I sign. Make sure you read it before you sign it, obviously.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it if anybody could go online and sign it, if anyone's listening. It's really helpful, and every signature definitely counts, so.
Yep, thanks. So that, again, will be helping to raise reward fund. And I think that a raised reward fund in this particular case could definitely help. There's definitely people who know something that I think might be encouraged by more than $50,000.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I had 500,000 that I could spare, I would put it in right now.
Right.
Yeah. And then, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so anything else?
I mean,
I think even just going out on the streets that day and raising awareness in the area where you know it happened was really helpful, and people were reacting, you know, to what we were doing and hearing about the case, some for the first time, or some it sparked a memory, but it brought it back to them again.
For sure. You guys did a great job from what I could observe. I was kind of following you around, trying not to take part actively. But anyways, thanks very much for coming. And have a seat. Hopefully we'll get more signatures.
thank you.
Thanks very much. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Someone Knows Something Q&A. If you have questions, please leave them below this Facebook feed. You could just write them below and we'll ask them. Just a quick question, David. So Janelle from Facebook wanted to know, do you approach the families of the missing people first before you decide to devote a whole season to that person, or do you decide the case first and then approach the families?
I do both. I decide the case. I go to the family, and if I can't get a family member to work with me, I can't work on the case.
Right.
So I have to know one before I go to the other. But then if I can't get the other, then I won't do it. Yeah.
So
I have to have family approval and family participation. Yeah.
And is that an easy thing to achieve? Like, is that?
No, it's the hardest thing, actually.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing, and it's the thing that requires a lot more patience. And I'm a patient person, but sometimes it can take years to get access to a family. Like, I've got cases I'm still working on, trying to get family access in other cases. And sometimes it's just, I don't want to talk to you.
Right.
And then it's another person talks to them, and maybe they'll want to talk to me a little more. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of, and I feel kind of, how do I feel about kind of continually going back? There's a certain point where I'll stop.
Right.
But I think, Odette, when I contacted you, it was through Peter Tom, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And you immediately wanted to work with me, right?
Yeah, he told me quite a bit about you.
That's great.
And I was quite pleased, you know, because I do want to find her,
Yeah.
her remain, you know. I know she's gone, but I just want to put her at rest.
Do you want to
Yes.
come up and stand at the mic here, Odette, or are you okay right where you are?
Okay, here.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a mobile mic we can take to Odette?
Okay. We're just getting a microphone so we can hear.
Yeah, so
Odette?
just take it over to
All right,
Odette. And
here we go.
Odette might
So we're
wanna
just going to
say
hear from
something.
Odette. Fisher.
So Odette Fisher is here, and she's got a mic, and she's wearing a shirt that says Sheryl Sheppard missing since 1998. And I got my shirt today, which I'm not wearing.
Right.
Okay.
There's is, and she's wearing that shirt. And a friend of Cheryl's brought Odette a picture of Sheryl that Odette had never seen before, and we've got that right
And
here.
I got me in a picture.
So, anything you want to mention? This is your 15 minutes.
It's been a long time, you know, and every day, you know, I think of her, and I pray, you know, that one day we're going to get an answer. Cheryl was very close to my parents.
Yeah.
I lost my mother 2 years ago, and she was hoping to find out if they heard any news about Cheryl. She was 100, my mother, and she died at home, and she was still alert. But she's with my parents now. She didn't deserve this. I miss her. I looked at her picture and I thought, why her, you know? That's it. I don't talk no more.
Thank you.
Thanks, Odette.
Thank you.
How do you? It must be very painful to kind of dig into these cases that have been there for a long time. How do you manage to keep doing that and to keep kind of the investigation comfortable for family members?
I think I block it out, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I probably block it out. I suffered a lot of anxiety and panic attacks when I was younger, and I learned how to kind of calm myself down.
Right.
And I do that all the time, and I think it helps me to stay serene in the face of like terror.
Right.
So I think that actually has helped me. But yeah, I think also being busy and not thinking, just always working and always on 24/7. It's sort of after a few months when I stop, or I never really stop, but stop working on a case for 100% of my time, that I start to feel the effects, and Odette feels these effects all the time. And yeah, you just keep moving, keep working, I guess.
Okay. We have a quick question from Facebook. Catherine wants to know, did you ever hear from Brian Sweeney?
Yeah, I did hear from Brian, actually. Originally, I had heard from him on texts. He texted me. I invited him here today, actually. I just got a text. Is
Okay.
it from him? No, it's from Clyde Phillips, who I also invited.
Okay.
Where exactly is the CBC Hamilton?
Clyde is on his way. Yeah.
Let me just, what is it? It's 118
We're sending.
James.
Sending Clyde a message.
James Street North. Michael Lavoie, if you're watching, just come on down. I'd like to have you talk to Odette and I and everybody else. Everybody's got a lot of questions for you, especially, and you can supply a lot of answers, that everybody would want to hear. Yeah, Clyde's on his way, I think. So yeah, I asked Brian. We did a texting back and forth. He's been doing a course or something. It's been really difficult to get in touch with him. I've gone to the house several times. I've met the Diesel, the dog, several times. Haven't connected yet.
Okay.
Still working on this. I mean, it's not really over. The season, I mean, yeah, we haven't put a podcast out. Like, it doesn't happen that way all the time. There's one every week. But there will be another episode.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're working on it all the time. So I have faith that I'll be speaking to Brian and to Michael and whoever else I need to talk to. I'm talking to other people that I will not talk about, but that will never be talked about on the show, who are also giving me information.
Jenna from Facebook wants to know, how much of the season do you go in having planned already, and how many leads come up as you're making episodes?
I would say I just talk about it in terms of written episodes. So written and produced episodes, I think we had 4 for first season before we started rolling. And then written and produced episodes, I think we had 3 or 4. Cecil, how many did we have before we roll out? Cecil Fernandez is over here doing audio, and he's the mixer for the show. Stephanie Kampf is next to him. She's a producer, and so is Chris Oak. They're producers on the show. But Cecil mixes the show, so he listens to my droning voice for a long time. And so I think we were 3 or 4. Yeah, 3 or 4, and then we start rolling forward, and then every week it's a new, the new script has to come. And there are sort of skeleton scripts written.
Right, so you know where you're going.
I know where I'm going, sort of, but I keep interviewing new people and keep adding them, populating the script with them.
Right.
And then we'll get new people coming forward and adding them to the script as they come in. And sometimes people take a long time to decide whether they want to participate, or they come up with an idea, or they think of something. And they'll come in, and then we'll just add them to the show. And we've done that several times. And as the season rolled on, we got some of the most important interviews came later, I think, in the show arc so far, because of these people who felt it was the right thing to come forward.
Do you ever end up really far away from where you thought you'd be? as the show develops?
I don't really, no, I'm always where I want to be. Yeah.
It's a great attitude.
Yeah,
for
it's
life.
it's always part of the story, right?
Right.
Somebody spray paints a building, it's part of the story of the building. It's not, oh my God, they damaged the building. It's
Right.
just, that's kind of neat. You know,
part of
someone
it.
scrubbed it off, that's neat. That's part of the story. Like, the building's falling apart now, that's neat. It
Yeah.
looks cool, take a picture of that. You know, like, that's the attitude.
Cool. CJ from Facebook wants to know, will there be a season 3?
Yes,
Okay. Can you tell us anything about it at this point?
no.
Okay, good to know. All right. So Natasha from Facebook asks, are there more podcasts going to happen with the McNaughton case? Will we hear more from that?
I hope so. If there's another dive, there definitely will be another episode or a catch-up episode or update episode for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and if there's another dive, it's going to be a gigantic affair. So you'll probably hear about it in the regular news too, because
Oh,
of
yeah.
what the helicopter, like, I don't know what we're going to have to do there, but it's going to be quite involved.
Major operation.
Because we're not going to go back and do it we have to go with the right stuff and dig up that 8 feet of sludge. You know, there's 8 feet of stuff. We were pounding it about the first foot in the third dive, and over the years and years and years, over 40 years, it could, you know, if Adrian's in there, he'll be deep in the mud, right?
Right.
So.
Michelle from Facebook wants to know if you were ever nervous interviewing some of Cheryl's acquaintances.
Define nervous. I mean, the thing I'm always the most nervous about is, did the audio work, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, is it on? Like, you get out of the house or you leave the place and it's like you look down and the red light is off. That's my biggest fear, is I didn't get the thing.
That's a nightmare.
Didn't get it, right?
Yeah.
But as far as being afraid of people, no.
Okay.
No. I mean, Diesel, I ran from Diesel.
Right.
I
Yeah.
ran, and I hid behind the door. Like, I hid.
Yeah.
Because he was going to bite me. But I understand that, because police had tasered him like 3 times, right?
Yeah.
So this thing looks like a Glock, you know? Looks
Right.
like this is the thing I walk up to people, and it's like, who is this guy, right? So I have to try to be as calm and inviting, if you can imagine me being calm and inviting, to
Right.
people as I possibly can, and otherwise they won't talk to you. If I'm afraid, they're going to know I'm afraid. Why would I be afraid, right? It's my job to do this, so I know what I'm getting into.
We have another question that came in anonymously. They want to know, was anything ever discovered about the Stratford connection?
No, actually, we haven't had any leads come from Stratford, which is a really interesting part of the story. Michael Lavoie, in the aftermath of Cheryl's disappearance, made several little journeys and trips around southern Ontario. One of them included a trip to Stratford, where he worked on a bank, or did some exchange with a bank machine, interaction with a bank machine, and then left. And this was the same day that he was also at the casino, Casino Rama, south of Barrie, and then was back in Niagara Falls again at some point. So there was this little triangular trip he'd made, and it's never been really understood why he would have gone to Stratford at that particular time, knowing Cheryl had disappeared.
Right.
And this is before he got to the storage locker.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Katie wants to know, have you ever heard from Mike? Have you heard from Mike?
I have talked to Mike on the occasion that's in the podcast,
Right.
and I've reached out to Mike on other occasions.
But he has not reached out to you at this point.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I mean, not that attempts haven't been made, and I mean, I just don't know. I haven't received those communications.
Okay. Jesse wants to know if we can get a wrap-up episode for season 2.
No, wrap up.
Yeah, because what's to wrap up?
It's not wrapped up yet.
Yeah, there's still
Yeah, no,
there's
it'll
still
wrap
lots
up
to find
when
out.
we know where Sheryl is, I think. That's the wrap up.
Dawn emailed us from Nashville to ask.
Dawn in Nashville. I
Dawn
think
in
I know
Nashville.
Dawn in
Do you?
Yeah.
Hi, Dawn in Nashville. So Dawn in Nashville wants to know, I'm very interested and passionate about solving a cold case here in Nashville, Tennessee. Did you use any resources to help you get started, maybe like a guide for solving cold cases?
No. I did not read a guide for help to solve cold
Okay.
cases. I learned on the job, actually, how to do this stuff, or the way I do it anyway. It's not necessarily the way to do it, but I learned when I did a case in Mississippi back in mid-2000s, where 2 African Americans were killed by the Klan, and I got interested in the case. I did research on it, I found a family member to work with me on it, went back to Mississippi, and like I worked on that for 7 years.
Wow.
And got documents, FBI documents, worked with the Department of Justice people, worked with, you name it down there, and got a conviction. The guy went to jail, 3 life sentences, died in jail. So you kind of get a bit of the bug. And like I've never been trained as a journalist. I've never been trained as an investigator. So I kind of just learned on the job, I guess, you know?
Right, followed
Yeah.
instincts.
Yeah.
Interesting. Rune on Facebook wants to know, for both seasons, how did you come across these cases?
I know Rune.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know everybody. Your own research.
He's from Norway.
Rune is from Norway?
SKS is huge in Norway.
Hi, Rune. Hello, Norway.
And huge in Denmark somehow.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So, but Rune wants to know, how do you come across these cases? Are they from your own research? Did someone approach you? Something else?
It's a bit of both. I mean, these cases are out there. You can find them. You go to websites like unsolvedcanada.com. You go to any other kind of police website. They're going to have a list of cases. Family members come to me and they say, will you help us? They send me like a dossier of information and say, give us a hand kind of thing. Other ones I'll find just by looking at newspapers. Was there ever a suspect? Was there an arrest? Whatever happened to this case? Is there a family member willing to work with me? Where is it? You know, is it in the high Arctic? Is it in Toronto?
Right.
Is it nearby? A small town? What does that add to the story? You know, and there's so many of them, and it's like I feel really sort of gross and scummy. Look, it's like victim shopping. You know, when I look at these cases.
Right.
And, so I don't really like that aspect of it, and it's like I have to exclude so many other cases when I pick one. But it's just the way it is. It's just, I just have to accept it.
Sandy wants to know on Facebook, what happened to Sam Pereira?
Sam Pereira committed suicide, I believe, in jail. Chris? He committed suicide in jail before there was actually a conviction?
Yeah, he'd been arrested, but he hadn't been.
He'd been arrested but hadn't gone through court.
Okay.
Yeah, so Sam is no longer with us.
Okay. Mike on Facebook wants to know, how do you manage the storytelling process?
What's Mike's last name?
Mike does
Matt-
not reveal his last name. Do you know Mike as well? He wants to know how you manage the storytelling process with the act of investigating, and you can how do you make sure you don't scoop yourself is basically what he's asking. You know, for example, like the Hard News Cycle can report police developments before your podcast is out. So how do you manage that?
You can't control
right?
that. No, you
Okay.
can't control that. In fact, you use it to your benefit.
Okay.
I mean, you just have to use what you get. Use the power and the force of news generation and that cycle to help what you're doing. And I mean, we kind of both are the news, and we're reporting the news and we're creating the news at the same
Right.
time. And it's a sort of a comfort position we have to take. But you can't control it. And I think as soon as you try to control it, then you're actually obfuscating the process. Like you're actually
Standing in the way
Yeah,
of
you're getting in the
solving the
way of
case.
solving the case if you try to control that process.
When the media does get interested, does that provide any momentum for
It does. It's
your
interesting
case?
to note, like no major Canadian newspapers reported on SKS, but they've
Interesting.
reported on tons of American podcasts, and I guess another Canadian podcast which has recently come out,
Right.
which we will not discuss.
Okay.
But I don't know why that is. SKS is probably the biggest podcast in Canadian history
Yeah.
by its download
Yeah.
numbers. That would definitely help get audience. We have a huge audience, but it's mostly word of mouth, CBC advertising to CBC people. And we're working with other podcasts to promote, cross-promote,
Yeah.
and shows like yours.
And dedicated fans too.
Yeah, and dedicated fans,
Yeah.
right? So
Audrey wants to know, where can we hear or read about the Mississippi case?
well, on my website, you can find a whole bunch of information, ridgenfilm.com. You can Google Mississippi Cold Case. I think there's someone set up a Wikipedia page. I have something from Mississippi right here on the desk, actually, strangely. It's a piece of cotton that I picked when the conviction came through for James Seal.
Oh, wow.
Why that's there, we'll just let the audience decide. And yeah, there's lots of resources online about the Mississippi case. There was a guy there who turned up suddenly after everything happened at the trial and wrote a book about it. So I haven't met him since the trial or before the trial, but that book is available. And my films are available. They're not available online anymore, but there might be something coming up on that in the future.
Okay. If you're just tuning in now, I just want to remind you, you're listening to the Someone Knows Something Q&A. I'm Lindsay Michael from Podcast Playlist on CBC Radio, and I'm here with David Ridgen, who created the podcast Someone Knows Something. So our next question comes from YouTube. Has any other information come out about Mike working for a cement business, and has his father's farmland been searched?
The information about Mike working in the cement business is largely coming from the Stratford era of his life, from what I can understand and from the information I have. Again, no Stratford era information has come forward. There's a person named Steve who apparently was a friend of his. Haven't heard anything about that yet. Hoping for something from there. The other part of the question?
Oh, and has his father's farmland been
His father's
searched?
farmland up in Cannington, Ontario was not searched.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't do any search. In the podcast, we already say there was no searching north of Hamilton, basically.
Okay. Our next question is from Jamie on Facebook. Will the next season be outside of Ontario?
Can't tell you that.
People are trying to get hints. Yeah, people are trying
Would
very
be
hard.
nice, though, eh? Would be
To-
nice
to-
to get out of Ontario.
Yeah, and like explore the world.
They don't say A as much in the other parts of Canada, or what's the other thing that everybody thought that? what's the
There's
thing?
hay. There's A and hay.
Right. Right. Right?
Right?
I don't think they say right as much in other parts of Canada, but
Right?
Right?
Yeah. Okay, Aaron from Facebook wants to know, do you maintain a relationship with the families of the victims from season 1 and 2?
I maintain relationships with the victims of families from season 2004 onwards.
Right.
I've got I've done about 11 of these or 12 of these, and I've got 12 families that I'm in touch with all the time.
Okay.
Like a family member sort of thing. Thomas Moore, a family member from Mississippi, whose brother was killed by the Klan, called me 2 days ago. And we talk all the time. We used to talk every week for years after the case. And we get together sometimes too. So, and Odette talks to me a lot. Odette calls me frequently when I don't call her, and I try to update her. And we're, it just turns out that way.
Oh, you do a lot of baking for David?
I take
oh,
home a
that's
lot
great.
of baking.
That's
that Odette
great.
Makes. Shh.
It's a quiet bonus of the job.
Yeah, it's actually why. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I think that I'll just leave it at that. It's awesome baking.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to learn how to bake, Odette is your woman.
I'll talk to you about that after. So, one other question from YouTube. Will you be interviewing Sheila again?
Sheila Darbison?
Sheila D is what the person wrote. I think they mean Sheila Darbison.
Yeah, I could be interviewing Sheila. I've interviewed Sheila several times.
Yeah.
Some of the material hasn't gotten into the podcast. Some of it has.
Okay.
There's the potential for that if the investigation leads us there again. Yeah, she's open to that for sure.
Here's another question. This is a question from Facebook. Tara wants to know, did any leads or tips come up in the McNaughton case that you weren't able to follow up?
Well, the car, the black and white car, we did look into as much as we could. We tried to look for a VIN number that could have been attached to the car. We tried to find where it could have been in the States. We looked for historic cars that are sold at auctions that look the same. We did as much as we could, but the police hadn't heard that one before either, so they never did any research on the car at the time. So I feel like confident that we tried as best as we could with the resources we have, but it is something today that really bothers me that we can't get any further with that, unless audience comes forward and says, my dad owned this, black and white car.
Same car, right.
56.
Catherine wants to know, would you ever try a different medium like TV or film?
That's where I started.
That's exactly.
Yeah, so I started in TV and film and then came to podcasting through that. So
Yeah.
yes, I would try that again, likely.
Is it different working in the two different mediums?
Yeah, it's cheaper in general, cheaper
Yeah.
to do radio and podcasting. People are more eggheady and less egotistical in
Right.
podcasting and radio.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more money going through the pipe on a TV set or
Yeah.
a film set. So people are there's a lot more risk, perceived risk. Story risk wise, though, I think radio actually does more risky stories these days. To tell
Really?
you the truth, yeah. I mean, anyway, that's my belief.
And does it change the way you do the investigation, the medium you're working on?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the podcasts, when the audience listens to them, I think it's just different experience than television or radio. I think it's it's much more intimate, and we have to have that in mind when we produce and create. And so Cecil and I and the others work on making the cinematic kind of feel to it.
Right.
And the podcast medium, like when these stories go out, people think they know me. Like they think they know me, like
Yeah.
as if I'm their brother kind of thing when I talk to people because of the way I talk or I'm in their ears. And it's a really hard thing to describe, but it's like I don't have to say anything at the dinner table anymore because everybody knows what
Everybody
I do.
knows.
Everybody knows where I've been. They know who I was talking to. So I don't have any explanations to do. It is different.
Okay.
Good enough?
That is great.
These are just flying by.
I know
these
there's so,
questions,
I think there's probably a lot of questions coming through. I'm not even getting to all of the ones they're giving me.
Can I just have a 2-minute break? Or
You
so-
can't, you
2
can have
seconds?
like a 2-second break for water for sure. I'll just, while we're doing that.
Chris, I have a question for you.
Oh.
Chris Oak assists with scripting, and he's going to come over here
Hi,
for
Chris.
a sec. He didn't know this was going to happen, and he's going to sit where you are, I guess.
Okay. Do you want to go over for a second?
Yeah. This is Chris Oak. Chris Oak grew up on a turkey farm, and there's a lot of
Yeah, that's
joking
right.
around about that because I'm, not into that.
No, you're vegetarian.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, tell me how the scripting process works on Someone Knows Something.
The scripting process, usually you come back with hours and hours and hours of tape. And we then take that and kind of identify some of the spots that we think are most useful and get them transcribed. We've got a whole army of transcribers who help us out, and we do some of the transcription as well. And then, it's a big documenting everything. It's a very long process. We end up taking those transcripts and moving them into paper scripts, which David does most of, but then it goes out to the rest of the team, and everyone makes comments and suggestions.
Everyone makes lots of comments.
Sometimes,
lots of comments.
Yeah. This is David's this is his favorite part of the process, I think. And then it goes to Cecil, who then mixes everything together, and then we start all over again afresh. Everyone listens to the first mix and has comments, suggestions. The lawyer takes a look at both the written script and the mix, and after a lot of work, it ends up showing up in your podcast feeds.
You really like working on SKS, don't you, Chris?
I love it. He's the best guy to work with, and he's going to give me a raise and all that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's it.
Sorry.
Thanks, Chris.
I know you didn't have
Great,
your,
I got a break.
you didn't have his makeup, but whatever.
No, looks great. He looks great. Just for those of you who are tuning in, you are watching a live Q&A from the CBC podcast, Someone Knows Something. I'm Lindsay Michael from CBC's podcast playlist here with the creator of Someone Knows Something, David Ridgen. So we have a question from VO who wants to know, where can we listen to your old cases? Well, you mentioned your website already.
Yeah, go to the website. I have a feeling that most of them are there. I've recently pulled a few down, but there should be at least 2 or 3 there. You can go to my Vimeo page too, D Ridgen Vimeo page, and you can see it there. I think to some extent CBC still has them in their play, in their engine there, the play engine they have. But just look online, David Ridgen Cold Cases, and Sharon Morningstar Keenan was a case I worked on. Catherine Mary Herbert was another case I worked on. The fellow who perpetrated that has been arrested and waiting for trial.
Wow.
Chrissy Heron case is another case I worked on. He's been arrested and in jail. So they're all online.
Okay. Ollie from Facebook wants to know, do you know why Sheryl was wearing 2 engagement rings in the video?
I'm not sure that she was.
Okay.
But she was married twice before. So that doesn't surprise me that she would have 2 rings on. But I'm not sure that she was wearing 2 rings. So the rings thing we're looking into, we're looking at all the pictures we can find. Odette, do you think she was wearing 2 rings?
No,
Yeah,
Odette
Odette
doesn't think so.
doesn't
The police showed me who brought that picture.
Yes.
Close, and it was only the one ring.
Odette
Right.
said she saw a close-up picture and it was only 1 ring. Okay,
They
thank
found
you.
it at the police station.
At the police station.
Now here
Okay.
comes Clyde.
Oh, great. Clyde's here.
Clyde's hard to miss. Big guy.
Clyde's just walking in the door
Hey,
right
Clyde.
now. CBC Hamilton. Hi. Okay, so you mentioned Unsolved Canada. Does Sheryl have an entry on that site?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Sarah wants to know from Facebook, did you manage to talk to any more dancers at the club to confirm that Sheryl wasn't there that night?
The police spoke to dancers at the club that night and the disc jockey and the owner, and she wasn't there that night, according to them. And I have spoken to people who have danced with Sheryl
Okay.
and said that she wouldn't have been there that night.
Okay.
Weren't with her, but would have said that she couldn't have gone back there for X, Y, Z reasons, and that they would have known she was going to be there.
All right.
So, yeah.
So Valerie asks, would you or Cheryl's family be open to more of an actual medium offering help guidance?
Absolutely not.
No?
Yeah. From my opinion, it's not where my interests lie.
Yeah.
I don't know about Odette. I guess I should have asked you first because, anyway,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Can I leave it to you?
Yeah.
Odette says she'll leave it to David.
She'll leave it to me.
Okay.
I just think, yeah, and maybe those, they can create sort of a different line of thinking that, whoa, I didn't think about that before, but I'm not sure that there's been actually documented proof that any of that actually connects to solving a crime.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of weird, interesting to watch how it works and things just from a standing back, but I'm not sure that psychics and hand readings, I just feel like it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
So just not,
It's not
just
the way
to
to
be
go.
honest.
Yeah. I think that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Delane wants to know, did Lavoie ever submit to a polygraph?
No,
No.
they asked, but he said no.
Okay. Tara from Facebook wants to know, if you think a disappearance like Adrian's, do you think a disappearance like Adrian's could happen today? Or would the difference in today's detective work have made a difference and helped solve the case faster? Like, do you think it has to do
I
something
think
with
these
the time?
kinds of cases happen all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, people turn around, the kids disappear, or wander off. And in fact, they've happened recently. There was a couple of cases like that. Just wandered off, found in a stream, or like just found in a culvert or something, and just suddenly.
Do you think they solve those cases faster now than they used to?
I don't know. That's a hard question.
That's a tough question.
I like to look at statistics.
Yeah,
I like to have
hard
the
to
actual
know.
answer.
Yeah.
It's hard to know. So I can only imagine that there's certain techniques that they might be able to bring to bear now that they wouldn't have then, like side scan radar or side scan underground radar type things, and other kinds of maybe better trained dogs or better trained rescue kind of
Yeah.
technicians and things like that. But
This is another question about season 1.
another question?
Yeah, are you surprised at this Q&A? Sarah wants to know, will you be taking a second look at the theory of abduction for the McNaughton case, or will you be dredging the lake a fourth time? You mentioned the dredging earlier, that's something you're
Yeah,
thinking about.
I think that the dogs, Kim Cooper's dogs, and the divers, and the family, and myself are of the mind that we need to satisfy the lake question
First.
before we can think about something else.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the priority
Yeah,
at this
that's
point
the
for that
priority,
case.
and it's a small show, small budget.
Yeah.
We can't really, if we had like a legion of people to do this stuff, we'd have all those things being looked at all the time, right?
Yeah.
But we're not our own police office, right? We're just us. This is me and Steph and Chris, and a gang of others, and Cecil, and
Yeah.
so we try our best, and we focus on, like police investigations, we focus on where we think we're going to have the most success, right?
Right.
We
you
can
have to-
also create a blinding situation, but we try not to do that. So.
This is another question from season 1. I don't know if this is something you can answer, but Catherine from Facebook wants to know, what does your gut tell you about Adrian?
My gut tells me that Adrian's in the lake.
Yeah, which is probably the other reason why. That's where you're all focusing your energy right now.
Yep. But I don't know. And I wouldn't want to,
Yeah.
push that beyond that's my gut, right? The gut is the gut.
Here's a question from YouTube. If people do have information and they are scared to share with the police, who can they tell to help?
Can email sks@cbc.ca,
Okay.
or they can even email police, but
Yeah.
I'd prefer that they came to me.
Yeah. All right. Okay, and so I'm just going to go back to some other questions that we got. All right. I think maybe we have all these questions. Okay, somebody is wondering about season 3 and wondering if there's anything at all you're working on right now that you can tell us about any of the seasons. This is a question from Lindsay, who is not me, a different Lindsay.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's true.
I'm just trying to think, because I know it's frustrating, like people want to hear something. I just don't think I can utter anything without giving something away in a way that's not helpful to the cases. So
Okay.
I don't think I can. Sorry.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we'll just have to wait and see what comes next. So that's actually all of the time we have for questions for today.
Oh.
We had a bunch come in. Thank you so much, David. This has
Thank
been
you.
great
Yeah,
to
been
hear
great.
more about your work in both seasons of the show. Thank you so much to our hosts here at CBC Hamilton. And thank you to our audience and our special guests, especially you, Odette. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You know, I thank everybody to put this on here so everybody will know, you know, that she's got to be fine.
Thank you.
You know, it's been a long time. I just need to put her at rest.
Yes. Thanks, Odette. Thank you so much for joining us today. And for all of you at home, thank you so much for joining us. That's the end of our Q&A for Someone Knows Something. Thanks for watching.